Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. So today's video is going to be something a little bit different. I wanted to try and design a route that was good for beginners and helped people learn how to play Dark Souls and how to speedrun the game really from the ground up. So this video is designed for people who have only completed the game maybe once or twice. I want it to give you a way to learn the skills needed to play the game and specifically play the game quickly. And I also wanted it to give you a low risk route that you can practice a few times and not be punished by dying at any stage of the run. In order to do this, I've set myself a few rules for this opening route. So the rules are, the route does not rely on limited consumables at all. Dying will not stop you being able to progress the run at any point. And you will not have to run through dangerous areas with large amounts of souls that you can't afford to die. So within that, this first route is going to be a vitality route. So my goal for this, because I know a lot of people have problems with ONS, was to get the maximum vitality possible while still having an effective build for fighting ONS. And I also wanted to be able to do it in under 60 minutes. So this route actually went a lot better than I expected. So we'll be defeating ONS in about 44 or 45 minutes. But regardless, we'll be doing it with about 36 or 37 vitality by the time we get to the end of it. So we've got a really nice health bar, we can make mistakes and not be punished too badly for it. And at each point in the route, there's lots of safety bonfires, so if you do die, it's not too punishing. I hope that sounds interesting to you, and hopefully you'll enjoy the run. Even if you are slightly more experienced, we still get a pretty good time, and I'm pretty pleased with the route. I would like to do more of these in future, so I would like to do a similar beginner-friendly guide for magic, and possibly for faith, and definitely dex, I think would be great. Without further ado, let's get started. So we're going to start our run by choosing the bandit class and taking the master key. Then we'll work our way through asylum, go through to Undead burg, and go from there. So why do we choose the bandit first of all? So the bandit is probably my favourite starting class for any kind of melee run. The weapons we're going to be using in this run are going to be the reinforced club, which has very low requirements, so we could use it two-handed with I think any class in the game. But after that, we're going to move on to the Crystal Halberd. The Crystal Halberd requires 16 strength and 12 dex for us to one-hand it. And that means that the optimal classes really are going to be either Bandit or Hunter. So the big advantage with Hunter is that he has good starting strength and dex, and you get a bow to start with. But the Bandit doesn't overshoot any of the strength or dex requirements, whereas the hunter has 14 dex, which is maybe a bit more than we need. He also comes with the spider shield, which is such a good starting shield. Has a 100 physical resist. It looks super badass. And the bandit also gives us a higher vitality, which is what we're going for in this run. We want to have as much health as we can, so we can afford to make mistakes. We don't get punished too badly, and we can kind of take our hits, Estus up, and then continue with the run without, having to go back to the bonfire and start all over again. So the theme for this run is we want to try and make it as fun and easy as possible and not be overly punished by any mistakes we might make. And for that, we're going to try and maximize vitality, put all of our levels into that, and keep strength and dex at a minimum, and then use as high flat damage on our weapons as we can. So the whole asylum section is very regular. I think I've talked about that in a lot of other videos, and you can see most of what you need to do there. So I'm just going to talk about what we're going to be doing with our souls here. So we're on a little bit of a budget for how we want to spend our souls. Our goal is to try and be able to buy 4 shards and upgrade our reinforced club to +3 before we do Gargoyles. So we want to grab that soul there, tucked behind the wall. And the reason we're going to do this is I'm going to try and pick up as many soul items as I can, because we can keep those in our inventory and then pop them when we get to the blacksmith. So my goal there is that if you die in this opening section, it doesn't matter too much. You're not going to have to worry about keeping every last soul that you get, and instead we'll have items in our inventory that we can pop when we get to the blacksmith and we're safe, and then that makes it a little bit easier for us. So in the opening section, we're going to stop at Firelink, put 2 levels in Vitality, and then we're just going to run through this area. Now, we do end up with 700 souls left over, and we do kind of need those. At least initially, we want at least 300 so that we can buy the reinforced club from the merchant. But we do need to get a few extra souls here and there, so I'm gonna kill these 2 guys. Then we're gonna go through here and duck into the corner to pick up the soul item buried here. You can get mobbed a little bit here, so be careful on your exit. And then we're going to run over and pick up the reinforced club from the merchant, which I think is just 300. So as long as you've got 300 souls at this point, then you can grab the club from the merchant. And you can kill any of those spear guys or any of the guys around here if you end up on less than 300 by the time you get to this point.
Hey, what?
We are going to try and kill the geckos to see if we can get some chunk drops, so that's why we heal with humanity at this point. And we are a little bit tight on souls, so for sections like this, rather than avoiding these guys, we're gonna kill them instead, because it doesn't really slow us down, but it does. All of this is just getting us a few extra souls here and there, which we're going to need if we want to buy the shards and upgrade our club before Gargoyles. Here we're going to get the gold pine, and then we're going to run up the tower to try and kill the gecko and see if we can get a chunk drop. Here, remember that if you want to jump the barrel, you need to not be holding L1 because you don't want your shield up. If your shield is up, you're going to roll instead of jump. And if you roll there, you're definitely going to get hit. So we'll pop a humanity here again. So we've got 2 soft humanity, which increases our drop rate. And then we're going to try to kill this gecko. I think maybe I should have switched to the reinforced club here. I feel like it might have a slightly better move set for hitting down on the gecko, but I'm not entirely sure. And here, unfortunately, we miss the chunk. So why are we trying to get chunks? We're trying to get chunks so we can reinforce our crystal halberd before we take on ONS. The crystal halberd will reinforce initially with 1 chunk, then another single chunk, and then it takes 2 chunks. So because we're not going to spend a lot of time farming chunks, we really want to have 1 chunk, 2 chunks, or 4 chunks so that we can get +1, +2, or +3. The opportunities for chunks are that gecko at the top of the tower. We'll have another gecko in the Dark Root Basin. Then there's the giant at the start of Sen's Fortress, so we can drop off the ledge down into the water and go up and kill the giant for a guaranteed chunk. And then we have another chunk from the giant before Iron Golem. And then if we wanted to get another one, we could go over to the blacksmith and get one by the like the lightning winged creatures. So here we're going to get the grass crest, and then we need to kill the Black Knight to get enough souls to buy all of the shards that we need. So we're going to stop here, rest, and then go and kill the Black Knight. So the reason we stop here and rest is because if we don't and we die, we go all the way back to Firelink. In terms of doing the Black Knight, I did a chunk of research here to try and find the most guaranteed strat for knocking him off, and I just couldn't find a very easy one. Ultimately, you just have to hang in this corner, and you've got to try and get behind him and knock him off. And I couldn't find a better way. So you can see there, if we're standing between him and the ledge, he'll be facing us, and we can get around behind him. So we need those 1800 souls to buy the shards. We're also going to pop all of the items that we have in our inventory. Here, we can't afford to lose those 1800, so we want to go from here straight to the blacksmith. We do also need all of the souls that we've collected along the way, but if you did die and you lost those souls, you would be able to farm them back. You would only need about 600, and you could just get them from the large tower knight and the undead soldiers that are in the church. It would only take a couple of minutes. There you want to jump off and pick up the bow and the leather armor sets. We're going to want a bow for doing Toki bombs and for Guinevere. Here we're going to kill the gecko to see if we can get a chunk drop, and we're lucky, we do. So now we've got one chunk. That means that we really just want to try and get one more if we want to do a reasonably fast run. So we will, the fastest chunk to get after this is to get the chunk before Iron Golem from the giant that throws the bombs. Here we're going to kill this guy. So he's going to drop us 100 souls. I think we end up over, so we don't actually need this 100. But it's a little buffer, it doesn't take too long, and there's a chance that he'll drop poison moss as well, which would make Quelaag's domain a little bit easier. For this dude, I always like to cut to the left, and then you can kind of just run straight out. Try to use audio cues so that you know if he's going to lightning you. And then now we're at the blacksmith, we can finally safely pop all of the souls that we've collected on the way, and we should have enough to buy the 4 shards we need and then upgrade our reinforced club 3 times. If at this point you're a little bit short of souls, you could go light the bonfire, head up to the church, kill some guys and come back. So for this route, as I said, I'm going to do this whole run without using any consumable items. So although we have gold pine here, I'm going to do the fight without the gold pine to show you that now our club is at +3. We can do it without gold pine without too many problems. Here we're just going to cut up and round to get the firekeeper souls so that we can get a bit more charge out of Arestus. For here, duck to the left to try and pull him onto one side. I like to lock on and then tank one of the hits. If you're very good, you can just dodge around it. Here, get the 2 hits and then duck through. Same as we do on most of the runs. Yeah, if you wanted to use gold pine here, we're going to pick up 6 gold pine throughout the run. So we've got 3 from the chest, and then we're going to buy another 3 from Dom Hall. So you can afford to use the gold pine. You are probably going to want to use it on Gargoyles, on Quelaag, and on Iron Golem. So you could use 2 on each if you wanted to, but I'm not going to use any in this run because I want to show that it can be done without it. So we get the opening tail hit for the stun. With our reinforced club, we're going to get a stun every 2 hits. So we want to try and time it so that we have enough endurance so that we can get off 2 hits quickly to get the stun. Then while the gargoyles recover, we let our endurance recharge, our stamina recharge, sorry, and then we go in for the 2 again. So with the +3 club, it works out really, really nicely. We kind of get a good number of hits. So just 4 or 6 hits, I think, for the second gargoyle. The one thing you need to watch out for with the reinforced club and with the crystal halberd is that if you do not hit the target, they will whiff, which will stagger you. So you really need to make sure when you're using the reinforced club on the gargoyles that you know you're going to land the hit, because they have that kind of quick leap back that they can do. And if they do that and you miss, you're going to end up staggered, and then they're in a position to hit you. So because we didn't go through the Taurus Demon, we don't have a bone. So we're going to drop down, buy a single bone here, and then we'll use that to dupe back. Sorry, we'll use that to teleport back. We are not going to dupe, so this run will be glitchless. So we won't be item duping at all. Now we are going to buy the remaining shards that we need to upgrade our weapon to +5. So we'll buy the 5 shards and then we'll finish upgrading the reinforced club.
Oi, where are you after?
After this, we will go back to Firelink, and we're gonna rest at Firelink for a couple of reasons. So put remaining souls into Vitality. The reason we're gonna rest at Firelink is because one, we don't want to rest in Quelaag's domain, or in Blighttown, sorry, because it just takes too long to run out. The chance of getting toxic is very high. So you really, in my opinion, want to try to only rest at Firelink when you're going to go and do Quelaag. Even if the chance of you dying is quite high, it's just really good practice for the route. Here you can drop everything out of your inventory that you don't want. The other reason is that we want to come back to Firelink so that we can pick up the remaining 3 gold pines from Dom Hall after we've done Quelaag. So here, we're going to drop off the elevator, go to the right and then drop down. We're doing this so that we can pick up 6 bones, so we don't have to buy any more, we're not going to dupe any. And then we get the Lloyd's Talisman so that we can get the Crystal Halberd out of the chest in Anor Londo with the minimum amount of hassle. So now we're gonna put away our club to make kicking a little bit easier, boot this guy off, upgrade our Estus Flask, and then quit and reload the game in order to pick up the Ring of Favour and Protection. Once we're on the lift, we're going to equip the Ring of Favour and Protection and heal up and tidy up our inventory a little bit. We can equip the leather armour chest piece and the leggings and still fast roll with our grass crest and the reinforced club at this point. Once we've done Quelaag and we've done the Ceaseless discharge, we're going to make sure that we've got just enough endurance so that we can wear the gold hem robes and the grass crest and the reinforced club and fast roll. So I think we're going to be aiming for 17 there. Our route down Blighttown is pretty regular, so I want this route to be quite beginner friendly, so we're not going to do the Blighttown drop, which I still have problems with. Instead, we're just going to do a much more simple drop that I like to show in most of my tutorial videos. So for the simple drop, you just want to walk into the ladder and you'll drop off over the edge, like so, and then you're just going to do a roll off the edge here and then another roll off the edge here. So you'll either land on that slope and then drop down, or you will land just on the platform and then you can walk off. This is just a little bit more low risk. It's obviously nowhere near as fast, but it feels a bit easier. So we want to heal with Humanity here because it gives us more soft Humanity, which increases our elemental resistance. Obviously, if you're not confident, you might want to just heal with Estus instead. It depends how fast you want to go, I think. If you're going to use more than one Estus chuck, then generally Humanity is a little bit faster. When rolling through the swamp, I tend to not spam roll. I tend to not spam the roll button too hard, because I want to make sure that if the rock guys come charging, then I can roll out the way. You can orientate your camera a little bit as well if you like, so that you can see them while you roll forward, just in case you get hit. When you've only got like half your health bar, if you get hit by those rocks, you're kind of done for. And then we're on to Quelaag. Our Quelaag is pretty standard. We're just going to try to get a little bit of distance from her, so that she'll charge in, and then we stick to the left-hand side of her head. Anytime that she does a long spew like this, we have enough time to get off 4 hits, and then if we're lucky we can maybe get an extra one in. The fight is mostly just done. It's kind of like fighting by numbers at this point once you've done this fight enough. The key thing is this explosion here. So this will one-shot you a lot of the time. You really want to... that's the thing you really need to look out for. The way you spot it is that if she arches forward, so she'll arch her back and bring her head down, and this arching, as she kind of pulls herself together, is what she'll do before the explosion. And otherwise, the only thing you need to watch out for is getting caught in her lava. We don't do a huge amount of damage with our club, but we do enough to get through the fight at reasonable speed, so 79 per hit is not too bad. If we get a long spew, then we have enough time to get off 3 standard R1s, and then we can finish with an R2. If you want to use any of your gold pine here, it makes the fight quite a lot faster, but it is a limited use consumable, and I don't want the route to rely on it, so here I want to demonstrate how it can be done without it. But using the gold pine does make it a lot quicker. If you're not super confident with this fight, what I used to generally do is not use the gold pine for the first half, and then if I had gotten her down halfway and I had a good amount of Estes left, then I would use the gold pine on the second half when I was more confident. And as we saw with Gargoyles as well, one of the things you need to keep an eye on is that you're always going to hit her. So if you miss with the Reinforced Club, you'll whiff, and that does leave you vulnerable. So here she's almost done, but we want to be careful and not get caught out. So if we get pinned under her leg and she explodes, that will probably be an instant death. If we get caught in lava and we can't find a way to run out, that's probably instant death. You have to be a bit careful with her movement as well. It's very easy to clip inside of her body. So although her attacks are pretty regular, there's a few things to be careful of with Quelaag, I think. So now we've done that, we're going to go on to do Ceaseless, get ourselves some very important souls, and then we are going to bone all the way back up to Firelink. This Ceaseless section is pretty standard. So we're just going to run through, pick up the gold hem, run back, punch him 7 times, sorry, and then get him to drop off. So I think the only thing maybe worth mentioning that I haven't mentioned before in one of my other videos is if you punch with your offhand, I don't think the punching is any faster, but I think the stamina consumption is a little bit less. So you're able to get off all 7 punches with less stamina, so you don't have to wait for it to recharge to get off the extra punch. So punching on your offhand is slightly more efficient than punching with your right hand. But yeah, maybe we'll just use this as an opportunity to talk about some things that will come up later in the run. So in terms of stats, we're going to be aiming to get up to 16 strength and 12 dex so that we can single hand the crystal halberd once we pick it up in Anor Londo. We will want to get 16 endurance so that we can fast roll with the full gold hem set, the crystal halberd and the grass crush shield and our rings. And then everything else we're just going to pour into vitality so that we can get as much health as possible so that we've got a nice big window for error when it comes to ONS later. So why do we choose the Crystal Halberd? I tested quite a few different weapons for this run. I tested the Reinforced Club, upgraded up to +10. I tested a few different things, and ultimately the Crystal Halberd just does so much flat damage. It really is an astonishing weapon. The moveset's really, really great. It attacks quickly. It's very light, so you don't have to worry about equip load. The requirements on it are very low. It's easy to get the upgrade material. Although you do have the problem that you can't repair it, the durability is nowhere near problematic in a normal run. It becomes significant if you want to do something like an all bosses run, but even then you get access to more upgrade materials, and each time you upgrade it, it will repair it. So I do think that the ONS are going to be difficult with an unupgraded Crystal Halberd, but as long as you can upgrade it at least once, then I think you should be fine. So here, we're going to put our endurance to 16, our strength to 16, and our dex to 12, and then everything else goes in Vit. And that's the only stats that we need for this run. And anytime we get extra souls now, we just level vitality. So here, we're going to run over to Dom Hall to get the extra gold pines. These are also, maybe I made a mistake before actually and said that you would probably want to use your gold pines for Quelaag, for Gargoyles, and for Iron Golem. I do think that's true, but gold pine is also really, really good for ONS. So, although you probably don't want to use it for ONS if you're not confident in the fight, because the chances of you dying are probably higher in ONS than any of the other bosses, it is very, very effective if you find yourself fighting ONS and you've got ones to spare. So we can save a little bit of time by boning back from Dom Hall, rather than trying to do the jump and then dodge the Undead Knights again. And then we want to make sure that we go and get the fire bombs so that we can do the Toki bombs later when we get to Bed of Chaos. Now we're just going to head all the way back through to the parish, go through the parish, rest at the bonfire, and then we will go on to do Sense Fortress. So before we move on to Sense, we want to pop down to the blacksmith and pick up the weaponsmith box. This will allow us to upgrade the Crystal Halberd in Anor Londo once we pick it up, and saves us the time of having to run all the way over to the giant blacksmith and upgrade it there. Here we're going to rest, and then we're going to take on Sense. Sense is pretty straightforward. It's just a matter of running full speed through the blades, and I've made a separate video on how to get through Sense quickly. So if you've got problems with it, you might just want to try and watch that video. I think I make a bit of a mistake here on this first set of blades, so I come in with a little bit of an awkward timing and fail the cycle. But generally, if you want to just run so that you are running against the flat of the blade at full speed, and as it passes, you'll come out the other side. Coming up to this section here, I'm going to use the wall, so kind of show myself and then use the wall to block the initial shot, run past the first pair of blades, and then run past the second. So that's a reasonably safe strat and not too hard. There are certainly faster strats where you don't pause and you roll through the shot as you're between the two pairs of blades, but that is quite a lot more complicated. Here we're just going to quit out quickly. This resets the boulder and allows us to get through without being hit. And then the rest of the sense is pretty regular. I'm not going to take the bonfire off the ledge drop, because the Iron Golem fight is reasonably straightforward, but if you wanted to take the bonfire off the ledge, then you certainly could. There would be no detriment at all. Here, we want to backslap this guy and we put away our weapon because it means that we can attack quicker and save some time. In terms of the Iron Golem fight, our +5 reinforced club doesn't do a huge amount of damage, and although the fight itself isn't too complicated, I think one of the problems with not doing a huge amount of damage is it makes it quite difficult to gauge when you're going to stagger the Golem. And yeah, in comparison to something like the Black Knight Halberd, where you know exactly how many hits you need, this becomes a bit more complicated. And I think using Gold Pine on this fight, being able to reliably stagger him quickly, I think is one of the big reasons why you might want to try and Gold Pine for this fight, and that would mean you definitely want to do it at the start. So here, because we've only picked up one chunk so far, we're going to run up and kill the giant. For the giant, you generally want to keep on his right leg. Once he stamps once, you're able to freely attack it a few times, and you generally want to try and kite out his attack so that you know what he's going to do. Like, make sure he starts his animation and you know what the attack's going to be before you weigh into him. If he starts to do this, you can take it on your shield. If I hadn't been in the corner, I probably would have legged it down the stairs and waited for him to finish. The Reinforced Club also does really nice damage here because we get the bleed bonus. And then we can finish him off. So we get a second chunk, and we can go into the Iron Golem fight. So for the Golem, we're going to run in, duck to the right to avoid the strike, come through, and then double back. We're going to have to hit Golem a few times, so I think maybe like 10 or so times before the stagger's even going to be on the cards. When you stagger him, you want to try and make sure that his feet are running parallel to the sides of the bridge, so that it means when he stands up, he's facing to one side of the bridge or the other, not facing down the bridge like he is in this moment here. So if we were to stagger him here, he would fall back and would not fall off. And one of the reasons we run through his legs is to try and make him turn so that we can control the way he's facing when we stagger him. Now, the big problem with fighting him on the bridge is that there's a chance he can knock us off. Also, if we get caught in his grab attack, it's quite easy for him to throw us off the bridge, which kind of sucks. You can offset that because we've killed the giant. We could go fight him in the middle section where there's less chance of us being knocked off, but then we can't get the Iron Golem to fall off of the bridge. So it's a bit of a trade-off. I think if you want to use Gold Pine and you want to minimize risk, you should probably pull him into the center and just accept that the fight's going to take a little bit longer, but at least then you're not going to get picked up and thrown off the bridge. So now we're in Anor Londo. We just want to level up a little bit. The Crystal Halberd only takes 2,000 souls per level, so as long as we have 4,000 souls left, we can upgrade the Halberd once we get it. But we've also got a whole bunch of souls in our inventory that we can pop, so it means we don't have to worry too much about keeping our souls as we run through Anor Londo, which is great if you're not confident with stuff like rafters and things like that. Now here, there's a couple of different techniques. You can try and bait them out. You can also just run past and quit out. So I get hit, which isn't ideal. But then as long as you're standing touching the chest, if you quit out and then reload back in, they won't aggro. You can then face the camera down and throw the talisman onto the chest like I've done there, and then we can just bone out. So if you quit out a bit further back, so you're not quite touching the chest, when you spawn back in, they will notice you. But if you can either get to the front of the chest or to the side, like I did there, and then quit out, you're in quite a safe position. Then we are just going to upgrade the crystal halberd twice, and off we go. So we, yeah, watching this back, we do not have quite enough endurance to wear the headpiece and use the halberd as well. So we have to drop the headpiece from the gold hand robes. I think I looked, and if we want to get the headpiece, we need to put another 3 or 4 levels into endurance, I think, which I just decided wasn't worth it. For the rafters, mostly you just want to make sure that you're running past the guys when you get close to them, so you need to manage your stamina so that you can keep running when you encounter the guys. Here we get a little bit unlucky. This guy aggroes early, but the halberd does loads of damage, and it handles really nicely on those rafters as well because of the linear attack, so it's not too bad. I would strongly recommend, if you have problems with rafters, the key to rafters is learning your quit outs. So if you can quit out quickly before you hit the ground, then rafters becomes considerably easier, and you can improve every time you play it. If you aren't able to quit out, then rafters becomes very difficult, because even if you are good at rafters, if you get unlucky or you make a mistake, then you have to go back and start all over again. And that can be quite frustrating if it happens more than once or twice. All of the rest of the section is pretty regular. So we just roll through like the Batwing dudes. Here, there is a little audio cue before they throw that. So if you're quick, you can dodge it. I probably should have. You can also, if you really want to, rotate your camera to check behind you, but that's a little bit riskier. So I managed to get it there, but not on the first one, unfortunately. It doesn't do too much damage, and even if you do get hit, you've got a nice big heal window. So here for the Black Knight, we want to try to get close to him so he pulls out his sword, and we want to try and bait the charge, which we get really lucky and do. I lock on to make it a bit easier, but the danger with that is if they fall off and you move forward, you're going to follow them off as well. I think locking on there is probably a mistake. I should try and train myself out of that. Here we're going to take the bonfire, and we've got a few souls that we can pop as well, and we can just see how many points we can get into vitality before we head into ONS. Cool, so we get up to 38 vit, which isn't too bad. I've quit out here, but you don't need to do that. You can just rest at the bonfire. I've just quit out because it made it easier to make the video that way. Next up, we're going to do the stairs jump to get to ONS. Here we just line it up. You want to jump a little bit earlier than you would normally expect to. And then we're going to go on to fight Ornstein and Smough. For the Ornstein and Smough fight, I would recommend trying to double hand the halberd if you can. It will do considerably more damage, but if you want to use a shield, then we do have the stats to single hand the halberd. I think if that's the case, it is really worth trying to get that extra level on the halberd to push your damage up a little bit higher. Here I'm going to kite to the left, so we move out from the pillar and then we duck back behind it. I'd say there's probably 2 key things with this fight. One is to try and keep Smough on screen so you know where he is and when you're going to get hit. And the second is to know how many hits you can get with the halberd to stagger Ornstein. And the answer is 2. So what that means is if you're in a situation where you've already hit him once and you think you can hit him again before he can hit you when he's at the start of his attack animation, if you can land that hit, he's going to stagger out of it, and that means that you're not going to be trading, you're just going to be hitting and winning. So this isn't my best ONS fight. I get a bit greedy and a bit sloppy. I should have been a bit more patient and backed up, and you're definitely going to see that at the end of the Smough section as well. In terms of fighting Giant Smough with a halberd, there's one little gimmick you need to be aware of. If you attack him straight on, there's quite a high chance that because of the height of the halberd attack, it will go straight between his legs and you won't hit him. This is why I tend to kite to the left of him and then attack into the side of his body, because then you're guaranteed to hit the leg. The R2 attack, the two-handed R2, does this really lovely double swing, which we just saw there. It does a really nice amount of damage, but the animation is very, very long, so you only want to do it when you know you've got a really, really good window. And that's the end of Ornstein and Smough with our +2 crystal halberd. So here we're just going to equip the bow and the arrows, go and kill Guinevere, and light the bonfire, and we're going to call it there. In terms of weapons you might want to use for the remainder of the run, the crystal halberd is really, really great. I think it will easily take you through the rest of an any % run in the main game, and you can definitely use it into the DLC if you want. You'll probably need to upgrade it once or twice more. But you can also go and get the blacksmith giant hammer by killing the giant blacksmith. Make sure that you buy all the twinkling that you need beforehand. And now we've got so much vit, you can also afford to go and level strength or dex as much as you want, and you could very easily go and pick up a black knight halberd or really any other weapon that you want. You know, all we've done in this so far is we've put points into vitality, and we've spent 2 chunks to upgrade our weapon, and that really isn't a big investment. So I think one of the things I like most about this is that now we can really go on to do any other type of run that we want. And that's it. So I really hope this video has been useful for you. I hope that you can get something out of it, and I hope it really gives you a way to try this route out, to practice speedrunning, to conquer the bits of the game that you find difficult, and to give you a really easy way to kick off a run and get yourself over some of the harder parts of the game so that you can experiment and try new builds. Thanks very much for watching, and catch you in the next video.